As a mother, I know one of the burning questions not only is she still alive? I think at this point, after finally getting to watch a little bit of the documentary this morning, I don't think Amy's mother thinks she's alive. Because of seeing that, I felt more comfortable to share this part, just because I don't think she actually has hope at this point that her daughter is still alive, because I wouldn't want to shatter someone's hope. So I do want to share this with the utmost respect, and I'd share this just in hopes to answer some questions and to potentially bring peace, but there's really no peace, because this is not a peaceful thing. This is not a peaceful situation, and no matter how the life ended, I guess some ways could have been worse than others. It's sad. And I guess I should go ahead and say, since freedom of speech doesn't really mean that this is for entertainment purposes only, this is just me sharing my channeled session with the spirit beings that I work with. So I'm going to read from my channeling session so that my personality and opinions don't bleed through, and this is just strictly the information that I received. Amy Lynn Bradley's cause of death. She died from a combination of systematic failure brought on by severe untreated infection, prolonged physical depletion, neglect during a medical crisis, not violence, not unlifing. Her body had already endured immune breakdown from chronic malnutrition and stress, possible complications from prior reproductive trauma, lack of basic medical care when her body was entering septic state. The infection escalated, likely stemming from an internal complication. She was ignored. Those holding her did not help her. She was not left in a clinic. She passed in containment, conscious but fading, and aware no rescue was coming. She stepped through during this part of the session, and she said, "My body failed, not because I gave up, but because they didn't care. I felt myself slip. I saw light. I said yes. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was quiet, and I didn't fight, because there was no more noise in me to resist." So she did not die in chaos. She died with her soul already lifting. So then I ended up getting a download that I wanted to check on, because I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos, but she did have a miscarriage, and I wanted to see if that had something to do with her passing. And I'm going to go ahead and read that part of the channeling session for you now. Yes, the infection that led to Amy's passing originated from complications tied to the miscarriage. It was not immediate. It lingered. It worsened slowly over time. Her body did not receive the medical care needed to fully expel, cleanse, or recover from the miscarriage. This left behind internal tissue trauma, a low-grade uterine infection, and eventually sepsis. I had seen, now that my algorithm is pushing all these videos, somebody mentioned something about like she kept seeing something about her head. And so I wanted to see what that was. And they said the psychic who seemed to sense something that had happened to Amy's head was likely tuning into the fever related delirium and confusion in her final days, a spiritual detachment at the crown. Her soul began releasing before the body stopped, possibly an earlier trauma, such as being restrained or briefly injured during containment. But this was not the cause of her death. There was no fatal blow, no brain injury, no violence at the end. Her death was internal, slow, unraveling, not an assault. At this point, Amy's soul had stepped forward again and said, "Yes, it began with what was lost inside me. I tried to heal without help, but they left me to fade. It wasn't sudden. I drifted out quietly. That was my release." So again, as a mom and being very inquisitive, I wanted to know how far along her pregnancy was. And it was seeming like she was probably around 10 to 12 weeks, probably closer to 12, if she needed assistance with that. It said at this stage, the soul thread of the child had already withdrawn. Her body began showing signs of imbalance and early miscarriage. No medical attention was provided. The partial miscarriage was incomplete, leaving her vulnerable to infection and long-term internal stress. This is what ultimately set in motion the slow degradation of her immune system, leading to complications that became life-threatening over time. There was no support, no clearing, and no mourning, only the weight of what could not continue. Amy's soul stepped back through at this point. I knew I wasn't going to stay. I held on longer than I should have. Not to the child, to hope. But when it ended, I just kept walking. That was the part of me that died first. So, that was a lot. Okay. I hope that if her family sees this, that can possibly help them. I don't know. I guess there's no help. But here's what I'll say that just came through. When you watch this, if her mom or dad and brother see this, if you listen to that, while you were listening to that, if you had tears, if you had chills in your body, tingles, that was her confirmation of the truth.